Call the meeting to order. First up is to approve the minutes from October 15th. Any corrections on that? We're good? All those in favor? We'll go into citizen comments, and then I'm going to jump I guess just really quickly, doesn't really need to be jumping in there anyway. So citizen comments, are there any at this point? We'll move on to presentation of school. We'll go right into the million update.
Good evening. We recently showcased student work here in the Wiki Center at an Ancient Civilization Museum. One of the civilizations that we studied was ancient China. And I was reminded of a Chinese proverb that has been realized during the Legacy Project. I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, and I do and I understand. So, community and student doing were the hallmarks of our Pavilion project. The project was such a positive statement, a statement of hope, a statement of a belief of working together, of giving one's skills and time generously, of persevering during tedious and challenging moments, of having various generations working together. Through leadership, which took on various forms and faces, and through initiative, our community and school came together to provide the gift of seeing what can be accomplished when there is common vision and a collective will to succeed. Addie Murphy is here, current 6th grader, who has been involved with the project since 4th grade, and she's here to share a slideshow and some embedded videos and time lapses which highlight the Legacy project thus far.
Hi, I'm Abby, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the JGS community about our JGS Pavilion. We started planning and collecting materials 2 years ago. Students worked with Mr. Stokey to measure and mark the site. Meetings with architect Chris Doctor and engineer John McDougall. Evaluating and harvesting timber. Many timbers were milled on the site. A lot of people worked hard to raise money. Many volunteer hours later, we have joinery cut. Teachers, students, and community members come in pairs. And we studied silver-brain vocabulary in school and are ready to document the race. Curtis Milton gave us his time and expertise. Students documented the whole race. Middle school alumni came back to help. MWB CTC building trade students get a hands-on lesson. Volunteers! Police create mechanical advantage. The second vent goes up. Vent 3. We all raise the fourth vent together.
There was a lot of heave.
1. We will now watch some time lapses of Raising Day 1 and 2. Raising Day 1 lapse part 2. Raising Day 10 lapse number 2.
This is really cool with the clouds.
See the leaves on that ground.
The entire school was of volunteers posed in front of the vinyl timber frame structure. A tradition of nailing a branch into the completed frame on the tree. A big thank you to volunteers and neighbors.
Well, thank you. That's what we've shared with you tonight. If there's any comments or questions for Abby or me.
I just want to say those last 4 faces that you saw there, Susan, John, Joan, and John Stokey, they worked really, really hard and got everything, all of us organized and kept things moving forward, even when it seemed like we weren't going forward fast enough and ready enough done. So thank you to John and Susan and Joan who's not with us tonight, and also John Stokey.
Piggyback on what Gail just said, that the volunteers and the leadership took on a lot of different, like I said earlier, faces and forms. So many people were really integral into making this happen, and so it wouldn't have happened without that collective effort. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Next job, thanks, Abby. You know, you don't need to stay for the rest of the meeting, so they're welcome to. Maybe a homework around. I don't think we have anything for the early childhood education update in this meeting. We can go around.
Oh, comes down here.
Right. But there's nothing. Well, this is upstairs. Is there anything for Vicki this evening?
In a minute, he has to come here, but I'm not sure why.
I think I've explained.
Yeah.
I have some numbers for you, if you'd like some stats on the first quarter students.
Sure.
I think more, you would like a clarification and.
Welcome. I've got to know you as I have a child going through middle school now, but one of the things that we kind of sort out is who is responsible for our kids at what stages, and your things pop up at various times. And so, for one, it would just be a nice clarification to see what is it that you do, what's your role in our kids' lives as they move through. And then anything else you want to share, because I think you have a really interesting job and you're doing a wonderful job. So,
Thank you.
let's celebrate that.
She's a great addition to class. Well, one thing I learned was that I do send a letter home when they read Bartlett in their last little 8th grade report card. So that comes at the end of June, and in it is a letter for me with all the different ways to get in touch with me and my cell phone number. And parents are told, with your permission, you can give your student my cell phone number. But then I hear from a lot of parents, we don't know how to reach you. So I think that timing, when that thing comes and your kids are done in Bartlett, it's full of all kinds of information. I can still send it out at that time, but I think a reminder as soon as they start school in November, a letter home to parents might help with that communication piece. I am there at Kennett on the very first day of school greeting the bus. And I tell them, so be the first face you see when you get off the bus. And then I help them all kind of know where they're going. And to be honest, the majority of students from Bartlett and Jackson don't necessarily need ongoing support, but I want them to know, and I want the parents to know that I'm available. So that I get daily attendance, I get progress reports, report cards, discipline reports, the same reports you guys get on the discipline piece there. But I would say that my most frequent involvement is when a parent contacts me. So I've been working closely with 2 parents of Jackson kids at the beginning of this year. So I think what I could put more effort into is making sure that every parent is aware that I'm available for support in any way. I don't decide. The students decide, the parents decide how I can be most helpful for them. So just making sure your parents are aware that I am available is really important. One thing I do, and then I pass it on to Gail, is I go over the report cards carefully and the honor roll, so that in the first quarter I have, and I'll pass this to you when I'm done. I printed them out instead of emailing this stuff. Because then I can write them. So there are 28 report cards in here, and not every single one. I think you guys might have 26 total at Kennett, but if there's a student who went through school here, but then is moved out of district, Gail has requested we still share that information. I don't, if they have moved to somewhere other than Bartlett, though, I don't get that information. So there might be, because I don't have access to the information about the Conway kids. So there might be students who have moved that aren't included in this package. So just so you know, out of those 28 students, 20 of them may be honor roll this first quarter. 8 of them made high honors, and that means all grades in the 90s. 12 made regular honor, and that's all grades in the 80s and 90s. Of the 8 who didn't make the honor roll, 2 weren't in school this quarter for different reasons. 3 missed receiving honors by just a few points in one class, and 2 missed receiving honors due to several grades below the cutoff. So, all in all, your kids do spectacularly at the high school. So I'm going to give you this packet here. And it's public information in terms of who makes high honors and not. So I've highlighted all of your students so that it's easy to kind of look at.
So Vicki, this is all as your role as HS liaison?
Right. One of the things that Gail has requested is I kind of keep her informed of how kids are doing academically. I hesitate to share too much specific information only because there's so few kids. We're in a public setting and then people will know who I'm talking about. So I could give more details about the two families I've been working more closely involved with, but I'm not going to only because I don't think I can maintain confidentiality. But Gail is aware.
And I worked with Vicki with my oldest child, went to the high school as well.
And so this is in any capacity, so a parent can contact you and just try to sort out things. And is it anything from like, hey, how if I want to get my kid involved in this, I do this, to, wow, I'm worried about this? Okay.
I can't think, this is my 19th year at the Bartlett School, and I can't think of the time where I've ever said to a parent's request, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I might not know the answer, and I will be honest about that, but I would say, but I'm going to call these three people and then I'll get back to you. So I can't think of any time where I said, there was a school board meeting last year where a parent kind of requested that maybe my energy could go toward helping kids who are doing really, really well do even better. And I just don't feel like that's the appropriate use of my time. I feel like that those things can be provided in a way different than my time. I feel like I'm a consummate problem solver. And that's where I get the most satisfaction from my work.
So Vicki, who do you send those parents to? So the parents, because parents come in all shapes and sizes, so the parents who want their high-achieving kids to be even more high-achieving, do you send them somewhere? Or
what I suggested, and I don't know if it went over really big, some of you were at the table, I suggested that there are people you can hire outside of school systems to increase your child's chances of getting into top schools.
The guidance department as well.
This particular parent didn't feel like they wanted more than what the guidance department provided. I'm really, really careful at the high school because the high school is full of wonderful professionals and I don't want to duplicate anyone's effort. So quite often it's simply, oh, here's the person you're going to contact at the high school. As you know, I spend time particularly with 8th graders in class, and I do a unit on Western philosophy because I kind of introduce it. We talk about the difference between Eastern and Western. Eastern philosophy actually to look inside because you can't change the world, you can change how you perceive it. Western philosophy is the exact opposite. This is how we're going to change the world. And we talk about different types of problem solving. We talk about the beginnings of our judicial system coming out of Western philosophy. And we end with 10 Supreme Court cases every teen should know. But really my motivation is getting to know kids in a setting that my structure is much looser than a regular classroom, just to get a sense of how they are going to succeed at the high school. And so that's kind of my chance to get to know the kids before they move off to the high school. There are some kids who are in my back pocket for 4 years, and there are some kids who I see in the lunchroom in the hallways, and that's the extent of my involvement with them.
so while they're at Bartlett, what is your official role? It's not liaison, right? Is it guidance counselor? Or
Well, my official title is family support.
family support?
But as we all remember, the wonderful Mr. Bosse is here today. And my personality, as he would come up with a new idea, I would say, okay, I can do that. So I can say that in 19 years, my role has evolved dramatically, and what has been most recently added on, but I don't believe it's going to continue through next year, is providing guidance services to 6th, 7th, and 8th. Which is mostly done through our time in class together. But there are a bunch of kids I meet with individually.
So as far as Jackson students, you meet them in 7th grade when they come to Bartlett, and you might
Yep.
be in class with them.
I'm usually there at their first transition.
Gotcha. And then you follow them.
I follow them. I try to meet individually with most of them within the first couple months of school, just to see how things are going. And then certainly adding the teacher's request also. And one of the reasons I feel like my roles might change last year was, there's a kid, not a Jackson student, who has in his plan a social skills group, which I'm supposed to provide. And as I said to the middle school team, I never have learned how to do a social skills group. I didn't go to school for that, and I have no social skills, so I don't think I'm the right person for the job. But certainly, meeting one-on-one with kids and parents and coming up with solutions to problems, I feel quite capable of continuing in that role. It's more of a small group things that I just don't have experience with. And I do want all of our kids to get the best that they can get in our and I'm not humble. I'm very proud about a lot of what I can do, but I'm also honest about where I don't have a particular skill.
Well, I can tell you, we've heard dribs and drabs from various people over the years, and one of the things we've been trying to figure out as a board, and I think that's why you're here tonight, is let us all hear together what we do, because people will say, well, oh, we did this for us or this, but it's only if you hear it from someone in a certain place. So, and really, as an individual member, I just want to say thank you, because I think you've really helped in a lot of unseen ways. And I know personally, with my own daughter, you've been so welcoming and lovely, and really helped her to make that middle school transition. So thank you.
She's such a pleasure to have. Having different classes, a benefit to everybody there. It's really nice. So I feel like probably the one thing I could, well, there's many things I can improve upon, but the main thing I could improve upon is getting that word out. And in addition to sending out that letter in the spring and the fall, I'm willing to, anything you guys suggest, I'm happy to do, including coming to a PTO meeting or what I didn't do last year, which could have made a difference. I'm trying to think now. When there's a parent who, every now and then a parent will request that I do a presentation at the end of 6th grade, no, at the end of 8th grade for transitioning to the high school. And I didn't do one last year. I've done them historically before, and that's probably another way to get that word out too, so I can add that background too, in terms of here's the things that you should know about going off to Kenneth. And mostly what I want people to know is your kids will be very successful, they will be very happy there, and I believe you as parents will be very happy with the quality of education you're getting there. And the Jackson and Bartlett kids go through the doors with a reputation of they're hardworking, they're polite, and they're incredibly respectful. And that just puts every single one of our kids at an advantage if that's the expectation. So. Other ideas or questions?
I like your idea about fall.
Yes.
September follow-up.
Well, because I went and checked, it's like, no, I have it right here, it did go out.
8th grade parents and kids.
It's the end of the year, yeah.
Their minds at the end of that school year.
Yeah.
That's also another thing, that end of the year meeting where, it's rather than just, the letter going home, it's the meeting, it's, that time
And I
of year.
usually
so
wait
active.
for parents to prompt them. And because I sometimes have a lot on my plate, if someone doesn't say, hey, this would be a good idea, I might actually overlook it. I wouldn't purposely not do it, but as I'm trying to...
And also, it's really hard to schedule anything that time of year, too. But
Yes, it is. What used to work really nice was we would do it here when the 8th grade field trip had kids being dropped off at, is it Red Jacket? Okay. And so the parents are already here dropping off kids, and then we would meet here to kind of do that. Because I think we want that captive audience. And in terms of any type of presentation I've done, and I love an audience guys, so I'm not shy about it. the parents who show up are the parents who least need the information. You know, the parents I would really like to educate are quite often the ones who are showing up. I have all the numbers on my cell phone, so I know how to find them. So.
Well, this is a good start. I think maybe we can think about it and come back, because it would probably be helpful even for parents before their kids get to 7th grade, because I think Allison, Brandon, and I could figuring out communication with certain things.
Yeah.
Would be, and even just another call. Not that we want to overwhelm you with calls, but
I would really prefer that not to be overwhelmed, but that to be contacted, because again, as I'm prioritizing what's going to get my attention, if I'm not hearing from people, it's just going to end up on the bottom of the pile. Not because I don't feel it's deserving of time, it's just there's only so many hours in the day.
but put it on our end to come up with something once or twice, once every year or something. So
Victoria and I have done, Victoria Hill and I have done presentations here and in Bartlett, and you guys always have a much better turnout when we hear from parents about a specific topic. We are very happy to share information.
Maybe in the spring or season come up, presentation you gave 2 years ago now about the developing brain, what to expect as your teenager becomes a teenager, was excellent. But those times that were on, and now you have a new crowd going up.
And I have new information. It's almost sad to say, I fall asleep at night reading neurobiology books because I love that stuff. And I share it with the kids.
So maybe, that type of thing to keep you more in the front of our minds as well here in Bartlett, Jackson, even before we get to Bartlett.
I taught for years and years at Granite State, so
I still use what you information you use for that meeting, so.
I don't remember it at all. I see speaker. Failing memory is a wonderful thing. It helps with confidentiality. So yes, I could focus on better communication, and certainly any topic you can come up with. I believe Victoria and I can research it and share information. Victoria and I are particularly well informed about dealing with anxiety and how traditionally schools do the exact wrong things. And kind of to make that shift of, this is my standard line. It's hard, you can do it. And instead the kids quite often with anxiety get the message, it's hard, let me protect you from it. And when we are protecting our children, they're not learning the skills. And what we want to do, just like all educators, is teach skills. So I 8 times a day, a kid will hear me say, it's hard, you can do it. They just roll their eyes at me. I keep saying it. Because both is it. And I think that as a culture, we have become very protective of our children and keeping them from struggles, and know that, no parent wants to watch their child struggle, and I've been there myself, but we also know that through those struggles is where some of the best learning happens. So supporting our child through a struggle is, I think, the best thing to do.
Thank you so much.
And I should have sat in front of them to see each other.
We won't go.
I have to go get 2 kids, but any questions on the contract or call in there? I can't get that one.
I have you to speak.
No, that's just,
What about
you don't do anything in the spring of that anyway. Yeah, but we haven't, since we did the last revision, we haven't really thought of bidding anymore, so we're ready next year.
Yes,
Thank you.
Vicki, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you guys. I appreciate your ongoing support.
Are you not having that conversation? Or is it somewhere else in the agenda that I missed?
So which part of it?
Like an update on kind of where we were at. forward, not based on kind of what we're hearing from the school community and our principal and general feelings from the kind of people who are.
Well, like I said, the last meeting, I mean, we're still on track to consider the warrant article in December, like with the other warrant articles. That's kind of what we're on track to do. I'm not quite sure myself which of the policy
We can go through into that. The EC program guidelines are good. Those are okay.
So that was my question. Are we going to talk about that?
The first two. It's just the third one and a couple of these others are fine. They don't impact the early childhood discussion. Well, they impact, but there's no impact.
So, Kate, being in full business, if you do have information you want to bring up, it's something that you want to discuss about it while we're there, that's why it's there, so that you have the opportunity to do that. But as far as public engagement, what it is concerned, I mean, what's kind of odd about our meetings is that we engage with everyone here a lot through our whole meeting most of the time. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. So it does seem odd sometimes when something's there, but we don't want to discuss the same thing over and over and over again every single meeting. We're trying to get on track to get all the information set for December so that we can rationally consider the warrant article that would be discussed. So that's what we're doing there. So, but if there is something specific that you want to bring up under old business, we'll certainly contribute to do so.
So just a point of order. We are planning on drafting a warrant article for consideration by the board in December. That's our charge.
Yeah.
And then that's when we go with what we want to have.
Right, I mean, I guess while we're here, I think it's, the conversation started a little bit at the last meeting. I've certainly had reservations about the plan, and so my position has changed. And I don't know if it's worth testing, checking with you folks, or if it's one my part of that is a particular issue.
I think process-wise, Justin, it's loose because we want to have all the information in front of us and we make a decision. And there's still a little bit kind of out there that hasn't been completely settled with it yet. So I'm going to carry the process. That's kind of what we're looking for.
That's fine, yeah. I just want to make sure I'm sure. Because I'm the first one who kind of has come forward to say I've had some reservations about the current plan. I just want to be transparent. So, but I'm fine waiting until December. That's fine.
When the December meeting is when it would show the vote coming to the board member to the warrant article. That's the December meeting, right?
Yeah, so there'll be a warrant article prepared for us to consider, as with every other warrant article that'll be there, and then we will go to either put that on the warrant or not. And we do every year with that. And literally, that's what we did last year as well. It's just, it's a long process, I guess, so it just seems kind of confusing sometimes. But I think at this point, what we've decided is to go ahead and consider that warrant in December. So. Which does bring us to the second reading and adoption of policies, JEDCE program enrollment guidelines. So do you want to consider adoption of these tonight? So let's entertain a motion to consider adoption of the enrollment guidelines. And that's just for discussion. I think it's still vote against it. Somebody will second it. Yeah, I'll second it. So this is what we're good to go. So as Kevin was starting to say before, we didn't get a chance to meet for a second policy meeting. So some of the ones we're not really prepared to consider this evening. So I think that's the third one under A. And which one's under B, Kevin?
So, right, we get canceled because of weather. So A3, because there's new information that goes into that. So if we could table that one. And then under B1, B2, actually all of those first readings, because the board hasn't taken a look at either the
So let's grab B. Let's grab B. So So what would you, we're considering one under A now, consider two under A. So under one there, that was the one that we went back and forth with the enrollment. We really didn't have any major changes to it, so. We didn't make any major changes to it that evening, so I mean, I think that this is technically the second reading. So you want to read through it, or we would want to vote on whether we're going to policy?
I'm ready to vote.
So, Jess, understand what we're...
Oh, yeah, I'm just contemplating in my, yes, go for it.
I understand the struggle with if you're going to vote against preschool.
Right.
Then are you supposed to vote
Right, no,
against
I know, we put clarifying language that the amendment is established. It's just part of, I guess part of my concern at this point is that, from what I understand, and we're keeping, we'll be voting against the one article. My position has changed, so what I'm wondering is do we wait until December and continue to work on something, or not? So I don't know. I don't know if anyone else has any input on that.
Well, I mean, I guess what I see it, I mean, it's like, if you're against preschool, it's fine. If you want to do anything you can to throw monkey wrenches into that, that's fine too. But we are moving the process forward. We're going to consider these policies. So if you want to vote against it for whatever reason, vote against it or go forward. And but I guess as far as the policy itself is concerned, even voting against it doesn't mean you can't contribute to a policy and then we're going to go down on paper.
No, I understand that. We had this discussion last board meeting, so, yeah.
If I could just throw in, these policies relate to questions we got from audience members about how many kids would you take and how would you decide and what would the, so in order to have full answers for the public, when we do have that meeting, it's really good to have these things hashed out so we can be clear about, we'll have 10 children and they'll be this year and this is how we'll do it. We have more than that, learning from Bartlett's experience and so forth.
So just to be clear, I'm not against preschool, and I'm not looking to throw a monkey wrench in the works. And I'm fully supportive of making sure it's all delineated, because I think that was a problem we had last year. So I'm on board.
I guess that's the part that I'm a little bit confused with too, because that was something that you guys said a lot last year, that we need to get all the details sorted out, and this is the process for getting the details sorted out. So we would go through it, I think. I mean,
that's why I'm not saying more now. I'm fine with it.
Sasha, did you?
I'm not sure how long those are, but if it is fairly succinct, could you read them for the benefit of the people that are here who might not have that?
Sure. The enrollment guidelines should an EC program be established, the following guidelines will go into place. No more than 10 students will be enrolled per day in the early childhood education class to ensure that the class size is safe and educationally beneficial for the students. The following enrollment guidelines will be used to determine priority for enrollment. 4 3-year-old students with identified educational disability, non-identified 4-year-old students, non-identified 3-year-old students enrolled in their space after 4-year-olds are enrolled and in the order of their date of birth. If space is available, tuition for non-resident students will be $10,000 per year. Application deadline will be August 1st of each year. Enrollments will not be accepted after the school year begins except for students with an identified educational disability. The administration reserves the right to deviate from these guidelines when the best interest of the students require doing so. Any more questions, discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained. That passes, I believe.
Yeah.
Second one, consider a motion for the adoption of our 29 personnel policies for contracted employees. So
Second.
And so this is just in addition to our Article 29 reduction in force to clarify that in the event that an early childhood education is established, the position of ECE staff will be considered separately. So that just means it's outside of the K through 6 staff, it's considered separately than that. Any questions, comments? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Jones is down to 7. First year FYI. Any questions there?
I do agree.
Yeah, A or B, I guess.
B, was it someone we had as a census taker before, or is that a new role?
No, we've always had someone doing that. Emily Benson was census taker.
Okay, I didn't know if that was a new role. I hadn't heard it. We hadn't.
It's a wonderful role. People wonder who it's what we base on. That person gives us the numbers of incoming children. So we know that there's something kindergarten or preschool or something.
Just the second one, I said. Good.
And I had a 7C comment.
So I consider election of Neil Stokes as ESSE program coordinator.
With the vote on
Yeah.
it? So move.
Second.
Keith?
Are you sure? No, I wanted to thank Neil. How many years now have you been doing this?
9. This is my 9th year.
Thank you for that. And how many years have you not even had kids in the school now?
I can't think. Well, Erin's at freshman at Kennet and Megan's a freshman at Bentley.
Yeah, so I just want to thank you for everything you do there.
Thank you.
And Keith knows, because he did it for a while too. It's a management task. And deserve a lot of credit for taking it on.
500%
No. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Is independence rule, is that a D? Yeah. Consider election, or consider the mentor training position for Canada for 20 hours, not to exceed 20 hours of work. Helping the transition on the technology facilitator. Questions, comments on that?
He just wants another plan.
Keep her dangling. Don't let her go.
Anything we can do to keep Andrew.
Mr. Bennett said we had a hire. That's awesome. That's wonderful.
All those in favor? 2 ayes. Business affairs. Any questions on budget status report?
Yes. A couple things. Questions. Is that we're already 36% over our budget? We know if there was a reason for that.
Well, it's probably just so they take the money out of the.
I think it's a higher and more experienced teacher versus, a less experienced teacher.
We had a resignation at the beginning.
Yeah.
That was budgeted for. You're right.
And then my next question has to do with this transfer a little bit. And the easiest way to say it. So I see on page 3, the budget status report, the salaries are temporary extended school year. We're already 80% over. In FICA, we're 80% over. Yet we're transferring money out of another year's why.
Are you looking at the number of graphs?
That's, yeah, I mean, we've overspent.
No, I mean it's.
Not, we overspent. Like 80%. It's a small number. We overspent by $797.06.
So that's what that says. It's over that.
Yeah. So my question is, with those line items we have already overspent on, yet we're taking the money out of another fly line item to go into speech services, and I just thought that we should go back into that.
Possibly, but I think you want to take into consideration the total where it's at for the year. The totals, because if you go line by line, sometimes it might be a little bit.
I know, if you look at line 71, 10, 1200, 5330, 0135, the lines that we want to take it out, the money is in there. But yet, another category related to that line item, we've already spent on. So I didn't know that was the best place to take it. That was just a comment.
Yeah, that's your point of that's what I think. If you have to look at the whole total for that.
You have to look at it now, we're going to spend it. Oh, you mean the whole 1200?
That whole category is, it's where even the whole budget, that's what I'm saying, you go line by line, and it's pretty much a little for that, but I think when you consider the regulations, if you know the money's going to be there at the end of the year, it says, that's probably why they did it that way.
And then you got one more question.
I'm pretty sure Becky probably did answer the question pretty quickly if you want Kevin to follow up with it.
No, I was just thought it was strange that it wasn't a different line that it was coming up. I wasn't saying I didn't agree with the transfer.
Right.
A similar item was that's it. But anyway, that's not what then the only other question. Well, it's not finance, but I'm not finance. My job is pointing out. The contract services library was also quite a bit over. Reason for that.
I think when you change employees again.
Again, what do you change?
It's a different employee. And then I can't be exactly sure on the details of that, but these are all paid providing services, and sometimes we get new students that come in at various points during the year. We have, like we're budgeting now, but we're going to have a special ed next year, and that can always change, so that sometimes requires us to move some money.
Yeah, and the only reason I went looking was because in general, we had 17.5% left of our funds, and I think if you go look at this report from previous years, it should be much higher than that.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
And the ESY services were for summer, so there's nothing else happening in any of those lines now, because our next year's ESY will be in next year's budget. So whatever was in those lines is really left. So that's one of the reasons we would use that to move.
But your point is well taken.
So the same with that, do we need to be watch for a deficit here?
We are watching. Yeah. Yes. Services have changed and they're unanticipated. So it's something we're taking close to that.
Which might be a good time to bring up the idea of our, just some guidance from the budget committee on the special ed capital reserve situation. Do we want to be putting the DAG to that? There's been some cautionings for the last 3 years, and we don't have enough in it.
She's in our first meeting with us, I think it was a year.
So then I guess just as the budget committee comes back to us with some bigger number, and that we shouldn't be surprised if that's there. So.
Well, I might have some conditional one on it. Depends on how much money is in and out of this.
That's a good point too. There. So, entertain a motion to consider the Barbara Jackson tuition contract. And this is just gets updated every year, correct? So,
Yes, you have to.
No, this is the, we have to sign 3 more, isn't it? For that, 3 more years this year?
That's right. Yeah. From 2020 to 2023. So there's that opt-out clause should you, the contract termination renewal.
And this was something we will do for June, right?
Correct. It's just if there were any cause for concern last time, both Bartlett and Jackson got together, we studied it, we had a subcommittee, and then you brought it back. I presented it to Bartlett as well the other night at their meeting, just to say that it is a topic of conversation. So my appeal to the Jackson board as well as Bartlett is, if there's one side or the other that would like to revisit things in the contract, now is the time to take a look at that. You recently spent some time last year going through these pieces and understanding the tuition calculations, but if there is a need to reconvene a subcommittee to do that, Bartlett feels as though they need to.
Yeah,
I was thinking, maybe I see a couple language things that some of the time I'm really talking about, but nothing that changes the contract. I mean, mostly that first. The first line sentence. The third line, sorry. Contract will allow for reopening discussion, sixth grade consideration. And the line about that is the contract is to reject students who grade 7 years of progress. The library told us that we're not getting a break for sixth grade because it's so bad, so. Language.
So do you want to
just
just
exact
what
language.
we do now?
Well, I don't know, I mean, they told us, no, we should ask again.
So we don't need to vote on this tonight, we just.
No, it's just a briefing that if there were a need to reconvene.
You're suggesting we just strike that line?
Well, let's confirm with them. I mean, we asked at one point if we sent sixth graders, would we get this kind of rate, and they said at this point, no. So, I don't know when, I think we should ask that question, and if they say, no, that's never going to happen, the student was a student, then we can probably change the line up to say middle school students. For those entire hands.
I don't think I want to change that from seven.
Well, then we got a new contract.
Or amendment.
So I think if it just said middle school students, then that, at any time, that would give us the right to decide to consent, and rather than have to go back to the drawing board with the contract.
Well, except for, if it's important, they consider middle school students, and we consider middle school students, this is what we actually pay them.
Exactly.
If we have to pay them for our sixth graders, and we're not sending them, that's kind of silly. I wouldn't want to change that from seventh to eighth graders, is what I'm saying.
Okay, so maybe, well, yeah, we wouldn't want to have to say, no, but I'm just saying that somehow we're going to any of our middle school.
We've got to have to run a new sixth graders contract. Or add another contract to sixth graders.
Yeah, we have to add another contract for our sixth graders, but it would be much easier if you asked me.
No, just changing the line, send middle school students.
I would not be in favor of changing this.
Right?
Sorry?
Yes, that's why I would not be in favor of changing that from our seventh and eighth graders to saying middle school students. I would be opposed to that.
Because you want some different rules for it?
No, because if Jeff just said that they define middle schoolers differently than we define middle schoolers. And the contract says that we pay for the students that we have in enrollment.
Well, that's what I was only talking about the number, the calculation, not that we're forced to send them. Because that line up there is not part of any of the legal document. That's just telling you what this contract is about. That's why I was just saying straight. This is the part of the legal document, it's all along now. That's all I was saying. This is describing what this is supposed to be. Why that is.
I guess I'm confused about what you're saying. At any rate, I don't have any problem striking this contract roll out for reopening discussion. It's just great consideration if you want to. I don't see any reason why they could be in there. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm opposed to changing language.
Well, I don't think we should strike the bottom.
That makes sense. I understand what your point is now more.
Yeah. And that was the better us. It said that it was the students, at any point.
Keep on trying to explain to you that the contract says that we pay for the students who have enroll in those grades.
Yeah,
And what
but
happens
if you
is
look down to 3, it says Jackson said all the students grades 7 and 8. You know what I'm saying? That's all I was saying. Is let's just change the word at the top of it. Down here, it's not, so it's required.
that's all I was. So we're good.
Okay. It's great. It's just going to be good.
Administrative reports?
Just a couple of things. Obviously, we're beginning the work on budgets. That's the biggest part of the SU at this point. I would like to, if possible, for the Policy and Personnel Committee, look at the date of Thursday, November 29th, at 9 o'clock for policy and 9:30 for personnel. So I will send a follow-up email. No, you're clear. Yes, because I would like you folks to weigh in on a few of these pieces before coming back to the full.
The 29th, you guys?
The 29th,
Deb's out of town, so I'll be there.
we can call them.
So you'll email
We'll
us.
follow up.
Okay.
When we got
That was a big
days ago.
And the other piece is, Lori was wondering, I know that she emailed some pieces and sent hard copies. Is it okay to just email out those pieces, or do you want hard copies to you?
Email's fine.
Email is preferable.
Yeah.
Email's good?
Email's fine.
And then I'll bring hard copies of the agendas. Thank you.
One more thing, the budget committee meeting, because I think 9 a.m. on the 27th.
But it's not.
That is myself and Jen. Jen's not going to be here. Oh, she was.
At 9:30 on the 27th at the ESC Lodge.
9:30, yep. So if anyone has any other input before the meeting,
You know, the one that.
trouble now, Keith, watch out.
I'm good. That's good.
At last meeting, you folks had requested that myself, Jessica and Neil do some investigations into some concerns and questions about our ESSC program and location. We've completed that work. I thank Neil and Jessica both for giving me a hand with that. We've met with some parents. I've done a survey. I've spoken to both Karen Dolan and Craig Nyland at the ESSC. Neil and I met with John Fischera. Jessica spent some time talking with Briggs Lockhart from the New Hampshire Tramway Association in relation to inspections and so forth. And then we also spoke with Peter Terrio and other folks who have taught skiing to get an idea about developmental appropriateness of where you teach kids to ski. As a result of that, I have this memo, and it was an agreement that, and conversations and points that I believe were important to both the parents and to John and to the school in terms of making sure that all children and their families would be welcome on the mountain, that the volunteer policies would be followed, and we'd have a system for ticketing our volunteers appropriately and ensuring their participation as members in the SSC. So here is briefly a memo stating that we will ski at Black Mountain, and it is agreed that all students and their families will be welcome. And we do have the background check policies in place, and volunteers attend trainings, on snow trainings or classroom trainings for those who have not volunteered before. And Neil and Jessica and I have detailed some specific policies and orientation that we're going to be providing for some of the volunteers to get them prepared to be the best possible instructors that they can be, and make sure it's a good experience for kids in the mountain. So that, in essence, is my recommendation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? That's very good.
Thanks for following up with that and
Yeah.
thoroughly you did. So, and thanks for being
as I said, the number 6 on here is it really is our intention for every child and family to have a good experience in any of our programs. So that's our goal, and we'll work hard to make that happen.
Thank you.
That brings us back to citizen comments. Are there any this time?
I have one, which is going to seem like a little bit of a non sequitur, but I don't know anywhere else to share it. So there was recently a public radio piece re-aired from this summer. The title of it is really long. It's called How Two Young Friends Navigate Being Black Men in a Mostly White Northern New Hampshire Town. Both of the young men interviewed were students in our SAU. They're not Jackson students. One of them I happen to know personally. The piece goes on to tell a really heartwarming story about their relationship with each other and a really heartbreaking story about how our school community dealt with issues of racism. And it was really painful to listen to and to think about our children going to a school where when like open, visible racism was a part of their school community, it was kind of brushed under the carpet. And I know that there's probably a lot of education that goes on that I don't know about because I'm new to the school community. But we are, I think, an entirely white room, and we are a really homogenous community. But that doesn't absolve us of having education on race and inclusion in a really genuine way, being part of our school environment. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and really hope to see in the coming years a shift where we're bringing people from communities of color into our schools to talk to our kids so that when we have students of color, I think there are 12 of them at Kennett now, they don't leave us to go to Freiburg Academy because they feel like they're not safe in their school community.
So I just wanted to circle back to the early childhood piece. So just to be clear, December is when we're going to be bringing the warrant article forward, correct?
Correct.
And I think everyone knows my involvement in this whole issue from the beginning. And I just, in all of this, I mean, I think the ultimate goal that we all want is to have the best education for our kids, and whether that is really looking at the facility and the staff that is behind making that happen. That would it be possible to have, just as you all will indicate your support or not support for the warrant article as it comes forward, to have staff indicate their support or not support for that warrant article as well? And this is, I'm just asking this because multiple discussions with folks I've had indicating, sort of the way the building is working out right now. It certainly has it's been a big learning process for me, thinking, oh, we'll just move the books into the classroom. That room, whatever the room is, plays a really important role in the overall education of all the kids that are there right now. And so I just want to make sure that our community is aware of that. I mean, I was substituting last week in the school, and certainly it's interesting, when you're taking kids out into the room, into the hallway to do things like, you think, okay, So, I'm just always trying to learn from everybody's perspective. So, is that something where?
So I think it's a good point, Carolina. I've had several community members ask me basically the same type of thing. What kind of input are you getting from the staff?
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, we run unusual meetings here where we are inclusive of everyone. And I would say that I would never say to the staff, don't come to our meetings and voice your opinion about things if they want to.
Yeah.
But there are areas where there should be some insulation between what we do here in this public meeting and what the staff participates in. And this would be one of those things where I would caution the staff about coming here to either support or not support something like that. It's not the best forum for that. If you're a staff member, in my opinion. And, I would look to Gail and Kevin for this sort of thing to see what they thought about it. But if the board wants input from what the staff thinks, there's different ways we can go about doing that other than just a public meeting. I don't think it's the best place for that. And particularly when the public is concerned, I also think that the staff should have some insulation between the public and what their opinions may be for or against something like that coming into the school. When that kind of stuff happens, kind of more in the background, when people just ask personally, this Melissa, what do you think about this? Because I'm sure some of our board members have probably done that.
Yeah.
It's probably a better way to go about doing that so that people feel a little bit safer in what they're saying. You also get a little bit more probably truth to what people think than having the staff come and support something or not. That aside, also, I would just say to people that either support this or don't support this, the politics of things often comes into play. I do know that people that are opposed to something, whether it's preschool or other things in the school proposing, I do know from a political standpoint, they resent sometimes when the staff comes and actually supports something. It's just not necessarily a very good political move either. So I just would throw that out there as certainly if Gail and staff thought, hey, we want to come and really kind of tell you that we're supporting this or we're not supporting this, certainly we would never say, hey, don't come do that. But with this issue, I think it's just not the best idea, the best form to have that happen.
Okay, so that's great to hear that. Yeah, just sort of again, for my understanding of the process, that you all in coming to your decision on whether to support or not support the warrant article would be based on conversations that you have with the staff. That would be.
Well, we also have in the beginning of the process, and I know Gail went over this a couple of times, is that the recommendation that she did bring to the board was discussed with the staff as far as those concerned, and this is what their best recommendation was.
Yeah.
Within the parameters of the directive of the board, because my original proposal was to build a space in the basement.
Yeah.
I think kind of where I'm hanging in, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, is that the use of the space in the school right now is really integral to the benefit of all the kids and where they're at. And if we have kids sitting on the floor in the hallway, when we have this really lovely library space that has overflow, K1ers starting their day there to, have a really meaningful start. And then, and they have to move across the hall sometimes because there's a meeting happening in the library space. And so those kids are across the hall, and then the person who's, doing their business across the hall is, in the hall. And I think that utilizing the space, given the needs of the school community right now, is challenging, based on actual numbers and physical numbers and all of those things. Is kind of really what's in the best interest of the kids. And to feel like the school community as a staff will do what we ask them to do, and make the best of it, I think is honorable. I think that I know that anything that the Jackson School does will be exceptional. I'm not, I know it will be. And so if we have a kindergarten or a preschool, it will be exceptional. But figuring out the space needs, I think, in a different, more kind of meaningful way, in order to not disjoint the community even more, I think is kind of where I'm sitting right now. And so that as a board, we can feel like the day those preschoolers walk in the building is like, hooray, this is going to be amazing. And I don't feel like there's a hooray happening.
And I think the tough thing is that even people who have been vocal against our plans for preschool say they are in favor of the idea of preschool.
Yeah. But they're all for it.
And Keith, last year, you kept saying, I need more details before I'm comfortable voting for it. And part of the problem, particularly when it comes to the issue of enrollment and that policy, and what that's kind of opening up our eyes to, is getting that detail more refined, is kind of telling us something that, we don't really want to hear necessarily, but we're kind of driving us into. That's why I think process-wise, I think that let's get all the details out there in December. We'll make this decision. I'm sure we've all been talking to people in the community about kind of how we feel, and that's probably too, and how we get whittled down more into detail. And which means we go through this process. We don't have time to present another plan at this point in time. And if something happens in December, we want to do something different forward, then we'll have to decide as a board on what to do and move forward. Right now, we have to get the nuts and bolts done. We have to get the nuts and we have to get our budget prepared for next year and get through that, which preschool is going to be part of that. And we'll have that vote in December, so whether we're going to put it on the warrant or not, and go from there. But, yeah.
So I have a question, which is, I've heard that this wouldn't be an appropriate forum for staff to speak to the board. So I wonder what would be an appropriate
I
forum.
think what Jerry was, we would never want to make staff feel like they had to.
Yes.
Not that they couldn't.
That's something I would never say this, hey, you're not welcome to come push your opinion, you always are. It's just, I wouldn't want you to feel obligated, the staff to feel obligated to come and so, to let us know in this environment, like you said, what would be the proper way to do that? Probably the way that's happening, which is each of us individually probably going to asking people, how do you feel about this? If you feel like you need something, more information to make up our minds at this point in time. Do we need to have some sort of meeting? The problem with it is that it has to be public. So, do we have a public meeting with the staff to engage in this? I don't know if that's the best forum for that either. I mean, I think the way it's kind of unfolded is what's the best, which is it just kind of happens on an individual basis. We get the information the way we want to. And that's probably the fairest way for it to happen. So otherwise, it has to be a public meeting, and the exchange has to be public. And when an issue is this high, you don't want to put the staff in a position where they have to say they're either for or against something, and it's just not the best thing to do probably. But that side, if Gail or the staff thinks, hey, we really want to come voice our opinion about something, you're always welcome to it. It's the way we run our meetings. It's kind of how we actually make that thing more successful than we do.
Melissa, just to remind you, when the issue of sixth grade came up, the staff actually sent a letter to the school board. That's obviously a vehicle, going through Gail's vehicle, contacting anyone else. I personally, in the past 2 weeks, have had both written and oral conversations with 5 staff members. So, and I know I'm not alone. So, anybody who wants to come at us, feel free to do that. And I would like to just reiterate that we don't want to put people into a position where you have to speak.
Right. But that needs to happen within the next month.
Yeah.
That's kind of where that's why I was a little confused. Like, yes,
But December, exactly. But you need all the information to be able to make that call.
And everybody gets their information in different ways.
Right, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But that the block meetings to okay.
So that I'm clear on that process, it's something that's going to happen in December, and you all are having other meetings about this offline, and at some point there's some cohesiveness, or this is all going to be a giant conversation in December. Because what I heard last month was that there were a lot of questions, and that's great, and I appreciate what you said, Jared, that this has uncovered this, and that's a necessary part of the journey. And I think that in the community there are a lot of well, what now? So I respect the fact that you're saying, hey, it's going to be next month, but I think having a little bit more understanding of so are there things happening in the background that we're not seeing, or is this just going to be a giant conversation with some of the results, or maybe more staff input, which seems really critical to all of us, I think, to have? How are we going to...
Really neither. I think individually everybody's going over in their minds what they think is best, and we'll come to the next meeting and make a vote. There's nothing going on outside of these meetings at all, except unless we get approached by a townsperson or a staff member or things like that.
You're getting the personnel policy, enrollment policy, kind of nuts and bolts sort of stuff just ironed out so that question can be answered when the time comes is really the only thing that's left as far as the official work going on.
It might shed a little bit of light on the process for you. We are not doing anything formally as a board other than what you all see. Everything's got to be formal. But obviously folks contact us all the time in various and sundry ways. For my part, because I've been struggling with some of the aspects of the plan, and we haven't had a formal venue to be going through all that here. I think several of you sitting in the audience today I spoke about it. But the minute I had reservations, because I've been gung-ho on this, the minute I had reservations, I said, if you can solve this problem, please do, because I don't know how to get around this particular qualm that I have. And that's happened with various folks. So I think other people might be doing the same thing at different times, but we're not acting as a board other than what you all see.
And there'll probably honestly be minimum discussion at the next meeting. If you read the minutes from December's meeting from last year, it'll probably go very similar. We'll read through the warrant articles, and then we'll have a vote.
Just as a follow-up, it seems to me like there's been all this conversation, and then, Keith, to your point, to have the next meeting, if it's just a very little conversation and a vote, it almost seems anticlimactic in some ways, especially if there's been some shifts that have been happening. So I don't know if there's a way to, not to throw this under the bus, or to prolong anything that no one needs to prolong, but it just feels like discordant to me to be like, here's all this energy and here are all these questions, but now we're going to have a quick vote, is it going to happen, is it not, when there's been a lot of shifting. And I think like what this process has been is it's become a community conversation, which I think is to like the credit of the board to let it be a community conversation. And I think to handle that carefully and respectfully, like continue to do that would be great for the community versus have it just be like, wait, what just happened? Like, you know, so that people feel bad.
Well, I think two board members tonight have told you that their opinions are slightly changed.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I think the only thing why yours, you know,
I
other
think it's all the same reason. There's not enough room in the building.
question, you know, to be had. We have the same idea as being put through as Gail recommended back in the beginning, is what we're going through, you know, in the beginning of this school year. So that really hasn't changed. It's just us as individuals and as a community going over it, thinking it through more, and coming out with these policies, you know, answer the fundamental questions that we have in the back of our minds. So is this the best place for it? You know, that's an individual decision to be brought to the board as to what they're finding out, talking to staff, talking to parents, those types of things. Is it what the community wants? Is it what's best for our students? Is it the best form? You know, those are things that we come to as people and we bring our information forward. And the more we learn as individuals, it shapes our decision and could change our decision as this is what's happening. So.
And so to kind of address what you're saying there, when you get the momentum going, it's how do you keep it going? And if the board votes it down, but so if the board votes to put it on the warrant, it doesn't stop that momentum. That's when you'll see it for the budget hearing is when the major public engagement will go on with it. If the board votes it down, then you know the people who want to see that happen might want to have the backup plan in place.
So, my view of this, Jerry has been trying to keep us focused towards getting this onto a warrant article, because that was the directive that we and Gail worked towards, and getting those details out. And I think some of the struggles you've seen us play out is trying to figure out when do we talk about things versus when is it not appropriate to talk about things. And even at the beginning of this meeting, I think, because I have been clear that my perspective has changed given the way this plan is coming out. And to be honest, the way the process worked, I think we've tied our own hands as a school board and as a school, because we have eliminated all of these geographical locations that would benefit a school community, even without a preschool. And for transparency's sake, it would not make sense to say, okay, well, let's just charge ahead of preschool in, but we'll work out using the space later. Like, do we go back to the lady? Do we go back to the old library? Things like that. So that's something that I've been struggling with. But I think as far as conversation goes, Michael, we have had these conversations. So that's part of why you're getting some reticence, is that there is not much more to be said other than me throwing a monkey wrench in the works, because to be honest, that space issue, when I spent a lot of time in that school this semester, really sitting there and looking and really trying to experience what that would be like, and I have not solved that issue. So that, I think, is the only big thing. Yeah. And I don't know how much there is to talk about that.
And I want to say that.
Fire it up. We want to know that this is the whole situation to do, and that's not really, that's money, so.
Fire it up for the weak people.
And to be clear, I mean, even if this were to go forward to the warrant article, I'm not saying it won't. I can tell you as an individual board member, I really believe in that early childhood intervention and that early childhood education. And so for me personally, I'm going to try, even though the board's going to be like, it's not, hopefully it would not be the end of the conversation.
And I-
But I want to do it right for doing it. I don't want to be right the way it hasn't happened.
And I guess, Jess, where I'm at with this as the board chair, is trying to have any process involved with it, is like, to me, there really isn't a whole lot more to talk about.
Right.
And the whole idea for me, why we should at least have it open in December is to be fair, not necessarily to the community, but to just the board members that want to vote for it, who want to vote for this plan. If there's any of us left, I'm not sure if there even is at this point, but, and maybe we could have, you want to have that conversation right now, we could. I think process-wise, it's just, let's do what we need to do individually to get to what the decision is that we're going to make in December. And that's really to be fair to the board more than anything else.
I think that's really nice that's come out of this conversation is that clearly our community is really passionate about early childhood education, and I don't think anybody, is against educating the youngest members of our community, and just doing it in the best possible way, and that's motivating, and that everybody is for, all of the wonderful, or most everybody, but it's for all the benefit that comes from catching these youngest members of our community in the earliest possible phase to get the most out of their whole educational experience.
Just a clarifying question, and I don't want to deny you process, because process is a great thing, but Jerry, you said something just now that I think was really important, and maybe it just went under the radar, that I heard there's nothing more really that you're going to learn between now and December. And you said, well, maybe we should all just make that decision now. I just wonder, for your own sake and for the community, for people who come to meetings and have done research beforehand, if you all feel like you have an inclination now and it may be leaning towards we don't actually have the plan we want to put forward, why wouldn't you decide that tonight? Why wouldn't you save yourself writing a description and gathering information for a warrant article and putting it on an agenda and calling people to a meeting who might ask you lots of questions and take up lots of time? Why wouldn't you just make the decision to say, like, I don't know, I guess I feel like you should have to
I think I'm the only one that has said all along I'm against it. I don't think they've all made their minds up. I think they've gone back and forth, and how do Jess has said she's leaning, but in the stuff that's evolving, like you said, she's leaning in different ways because she saw firsthand what was going on. So is there something else that somebody else might see in the next month that might influence their decision one way or the other? So I don't know that I need to hear anybody's how they feel right now.
No, I don't either. And also, it's also because of process and how process is supposed to work. And our process at the school board is a formula. And the less we deviate from it is actually better for not only for this board, but for future boards as well. And the process is basically to consider these things by these dates. And December is when we put our warrant article together. So that's when we should wait to do it. Because that's how a process for the board is supposed to work. Where the most interesting thing that Jess said tonight that clicked with me is that we tied our hands into one plan. The process that brought us here maybe wasn't the best one for that. When we should have gone back and revisited space issues, maybe should have been with the original committee before we kind of coalesced behind one plan. And maybe that's what we'll go back to someday. I don't know. We'll have to see. But our process says that we should figure these things out by the way we do it. And so that's why we're going to wait for December to do it. And that's really to be fair to the board. But yeah, it would seem silly if our minds have changed. But we're not tying the hands of these folks with a lot of work. It's ordinary part of the process. So we'll get there.
I'll just say,
Sure.
And none of the time of anybody has been wasted, I hope, in all these years of having this discussion. It's been fascinating to see how this has been playing out. And you gotta, commit to a plan that you feel is the best, and I think, we've definitely done that. So thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you. So.
Yeah, you'll go down like the Bob Thompson thing every time we talk about revisiting the bus.
And there's other cool things happening on the ride, which I won't say anything until you've been on the habit, yeah, good old Bob. I'm gonna keep subbing.
Tomorrow?
Monday.
got a sub. Whoa.
Anything else? Anyone? Board member issues?
Yeah. I can't make that.
December 17th. Yeah.
Oh, cut it out.
I can do it at 4.
4, yeah, that works.
Yes.
So our December meeting is going to be 4 o'clock here.
December 17th.
There's no.
4 o'clock. Next
Yep. Oh, let's, yeah, they figured that out already. We can change it to Saturday. So I consider motion to set the date for the school district meeting Thursday, March 7th, 2019, 7 p.m. in this building. Everyone good with that? All those in favor? And entertain a motion to set the date and time for the budget hearing Thursday, February 7th, 2019, 6 p.m. in this building. All those in favor? Anything else? Motion to adjourn? So moved. Thanks, Gail. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everyone.